What's going on, YouTube? Gabe the Great back here again for another video. Thank you to all the people who watched yesterday's video. Today, I want to talk about how humans are the multiverse and the illusion of objectivity. If you're big into quantum physics, sci-fi movies, even things like Marvel, right? We often hear about this thing, the multiverse, right? This idea that there are multiple universes in which you exist, right? So there is, you'll see things like there's a version of you from the 1700s or a version of you from the future or whatever it may be. Well, what I want to talk about today is how the nature of reality is actually a multiverse right now. It's not that we are currently experiencing the multiverse and how humanity is the multiverse. Every single individual human is a universe unto itself. And this creates multiple subjective human experiences. And right now we have this illusion of objectivity. Like there is this objective reality that exists. And today I'm going to explain to how that objectivity is an illusion. And we can continue to believe in this illusion of objectivity, or we can embrace the true nature of reality, and in that every single human being is a multiverse, and how we balance that, okay? I will be reading from my manifesto, not all of the pages. We're actually going to jump around quite a bit in the manifesto. Again, if you can get a link for it in the bio, but this is my manifesto. This is my theory of everything. It's mostly rooted in American society because I'm an American. And I believe that you can learn about the nature of reality simply by embracing your own local community, whether that's at a local, city level or a bigger country level. I think you can learn everything you need to know about the nature of reality, and including how your country interacts with other countries to understand the nature of reality and how this multiverse works. So if you guys are ready, let's get into it. Please like this video, comment questions down below as we go through it, and I will jump into it, okay? So the first thing I want to do is set up the nature of reality. So I'm going to be on page 2 of my manifesto, okay? And I'm going to read this part right here just to give you a background of the worldview and the starting place that we're coming from, okay? So at the bottom of page 2, it says, for most people, reality is what they can see, touch, and name. Their body, their job, their country, their God. But the overman knows that that's just the surface. Reality is not what appears. Reality is the sum of forces creating appearance. And when you strip away the noise, the stories, the politics, the religions, you find that everything real collapses into a dance of these three forces: the self, the conscious choosing, perceiving agent; society, the collective arrangement of cells constantly shaping and reshaping each other; and 3, the unknown, everything that exists beyond knowing, mystery, future, death, cosmos, and creation. Now, in order to understand this, I want you guys to understand when I say that reality, what is real, okay? What we consider real is made up of 3 things: the self, society, and the unknown, okay? Now, the self in the manifesto, I break down into 3 parts, and we're going to talk about one of these parts today in depth a little bit, but you do need to understand the other 2 parts because they all work together, okay? As I say right here a little bit after that, nothing real exists outside the matrix, and the matrix cannot exist without all 3 working. Not love, not war, not art, not oppression. All 3 are the result of self colliding with society under the shadow of unknown. 3 forces operating independently and interdependently, always distinct, yet never truly separate, okay? So self, society, and the unknown, while you can understand them independently and they can all exist independently, in actuality, they all always have to work interdependently at will. So these are 3 things that are shaping and reshaping not just their individual categories, but also each other, right? So as the self moves through society and engages with the unknown, all three are going to be changed, because what was unknown is going to become known. And as a single self moves through society, that's going to shape society. Same thing, as society forms its laws, its customs, its rituals, its everything, that's going to shape the individual self's behavior, and it's going to shape how they approach the unknown. Now, the unknown is not this big, giant philosophical escape hatch that just goes, oh, everything that I don't understand, that's the unknown. No, 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 no. The unknown is a very important part to the self. If you go back to children when they're first born, infants, everything is unknown to them, right? Their first cries, their first coos out of the womb is a negotiation with the unknown, okay? And they learn their name, and they learn who their parents are, and they learn as they go through life. It's just going from unknown to known, unknown to known, and that is humanity. Even today, see, we now live underneath this illusion of certainty, this illusion of objectivity, when from the inception of our birth, we are engaging with the unknown. And as we learn more, we understand that our brains are conscious limiting tools. Our brains are not geared so that we know everything. Our brains are geared so that we're limited in our experience. Okay. Now, the self is broken down. I break the self down into three parts, and we're going to talk about one of those parts deeply today. Okay. And those three parts are universal consciousness, the body, and your environment. Okay. So let's talk about the body and environment, because we're going to go deep into universal consciousness here in a second. So your body, right? Self-explanatory. Everybody has a body. Okay. It is not possible right now to be human without a body. Okay. It's not possible. But your body is going to alter your experience. Okay. Your body's going to, whether you have certain, genetic, whether things are given to you by genetics, whether it's through you get injured, whether it's through your brain is a certain way, whether it's your skin color, whatever it may be, everybody has a body. And this body is how you perceive the universe. Okay. It's how you perceive reality, how you perceive other selves. Okay. And everybody's body is different. My eyesight is different than the next person's eyesight. The way that I hear is different than the next person. And that is true for every single individual. It's so funny because when you start looking at it like that, you go, wait, it's almost impossible for objectivity to be a thing. If we are literally all looking at society differently, we don't all see colors the same. We don't interpret information the same. We don't engage with reality the same. And when you accept it like that, you go, wait, this starts to make sense why objectivity could not be. Now, that doesn't mean that we just, throw out truth, facts, the material reality, and we're going to get to that in a second. But the body, okay? The body. Now, let's talk about the environment, okay? The environment is also part of you. There's no way for you to define who you are without your environment. What do I mean by that? Your family, where you live, your religion, your country, your customs. All of these shape you, your identity. If I was to take your same body, your same DNA, and I put you in a different family, a different culture, a different time period, right? That's why one of the things I talk about in the environment section is we got to start talking about time and space. Time is part of the environment, right? Although we can say that it is a construct of humanity, we also understand that depending upon where you're born in time as we understand it, and in different spaces, it will completely alter who you are as a person. Okay. But the biggest part about the self is what I call universal consciousness. Some people call it a soul, some people call it a spirit. But one of the issues that we have in the 21st century, in 2025, is everything is about the material. Right? Our life, our governments, the way we do life is all about the material. And for most of human history, people built their societies alongside the spiritual. So as they began to understand this, the spiritual was very much a part of human life. And nowadays, the spiritual is not so much a part of human life. Science and observing the material world, has become, almost too much of the human experience. And because of that, we have a lot of religion that has become spiritual narcissism, right? Religion claims a monopoly on the spirituality and tries to get us to believe in a monotheistic God, or this sort of religion, or this is where morality comes from. And what I need everybody to understand is that everybody has a piece of universal consciousness in them, and in a very real way, humans are the universe getting to know itself. Let me say that again. Every human being, from you watching this to my nonverbal autistic daughter, to the president of the United States, to somebody across the world, every single individual person is the universe getting to know itself. We name the stars, right? If you get rid of humanity, there's no name for the animals. There's no name for the planet. There's no name for the idea of name doesn't exist. We are what gives meaning to this. Every single individual human. Okay? Let's get deeper into this. I'll start in the middle of page 15 of my manifesto. Universal consciousness is the ultimate meaning maker. Meaning does not exist out there. There is no cosmic folder labeled purpose waiting to be discovered. Meaning is the byproduct of awareness. It is not found, it is made, because consciousness needs structure to survive. A conscious being cannot function in pure chaos. It needs story, symbol, connection. This is why humans invent gods, philosophies, art, war, politics. It's why we name our pain and give shape to our dreams. Without meaning, consciousness collapses into confusion. So it creates meaning, even if it must lie to do so. This is important. But the overman does not lie. He creates meaning with eyes wide open, aware that it is a creation, not a commandment. Universal consciousness is the source of meaning making, not because meaning exists, but because consciousness needs it to exist. Okay? So we're still, as a human species, trying to understand consciousness. And I don't come here to claim that I got consciousness all figured out. But what we do know about consciousness is that consciousness, in a very real way, is awareness. It's almost being aware of being aware, right? And so the byproduct of awareness, once you become aware of something, you begin to describe it, right? And you begin to give it shape. You begin to give it meaning, right? What does all this mean? This is something we are constantly, again, from the time we come out of our mother's womb, we are searching for meaning. What does this word mean? What does it mean if I touch this? What if I put this in my mouth? We are constantly looking for meaning. That doesn't just stop as infants. That continues every single day of your life. You're creating meaning of this video. You're creating meaning of something that happened, 10 years ago, or you're creating meaning of the future, because that is the byproduct of awareness, okay? Now, here's the thing. The creation of meaning is more important than truth, facts, logic, all of that, okay? The creation of meaning, because that is what awareness, that's what consciousness needs to do. It needs structure to exist, okay? But what we often forget is that, again, we are the meaning makers of the universe, okay? And so often what's happened is when something has meant something for a very, very, very long time, we forget that humanity is the source of that meaning. So I say this as a sort of a comedic example, right? It'll never happen. But if all of humanity decided today that big star in the sky is no longer called the sun, and we call it a pickle, who's going to debate with us? The animals aren't going to, the sharks aren't going to debate with us. Venus is not going to debate with us. We give meaning to the universe. We tell the universe what it is. We tell the animals what they are. The animals don't tell us what they are. We tell the mountain what it is. We tell the universe what it is. That's what humans do, okay? But with that, oftentimes we forget that we are also part of that consciousness. We are also part of the thing that we are describing, okay? So we treat ourselves like anomalies in a system, like intelligent bacteria that somehow grew self-awareness on a blue rock. But that's not the truth. We are not separate from the universe. We are what the universe is doing right now. The stars didn't stop creating after galaxies. The universe didn't finish evolving after it cooled. It kept going until it began to ask questions, and those questions came from us. It didn't start with humans, but through us, it can ask new questions. It can wonder, imagine, remember, and create. We are the tools through which the universe tries to understand what it is. We are its memory, its mirror, its question. Humans spend their entire lives, their whole lives, searching to be a part of something bigger than themselves, as if they're not the main characters of the universe. There's nothing bigger than the universe, and we are a part of it. We are so self-centered, partly by design of the body, that we forget we are already a part of the biggest show in the universe itself. And as far as I'm concerned, until we discover otherwise, we are the directors, producers, and starring actors. At all times, every human is a part of something bigger. You are not just part of something bigger is a part of you, and it needs you to let it free. Okay? So this is important because particularly here in America, where we can be very self-centered and very egotistical, and much of our life is about promoting self, right? The people who get to the top of American society are the biggest promoters of self, right? They're not the most smartest. They're not the most intelligent. They don't have the best philosophical minds. They're not the most spiritual. They don't have the most moral courage. They don't have the best integrity. In the United States of America, the way you get to the top is the promotion of self. But when you are constantly promoting self, you're not realizing that you are a very, very small part of a bigger picture. And that just because you as a human have the ability to name this thing a wall, or this a camera, or that a jacket, or this a hoodie, or whatever it may be, just because as humans we can do that, and that has great power. We are the narrators of the universe. We are what tells the universe what it is. That comes with great responsibility, and it's a great power. But we are still part of that system that we're describing. We are still part of the universe. We are still part of the solar system. We are still part of the earth. It's one of the reasons why the way that we do government in the United States of America doesn't make sense. Is because we're so egotistical. We're so focused on self. And we forget that the self is a part of something larger. Okay? But let's keep going here. There is no singular purpose for human life. There is no one path we're all meant to follow, because the universe doesn't just want to know one thing, it wants to know everything. That's why some people want to become astronauts, others want to raise children, others want to study mushrooms or build machines or write poetry or live quiet lives that no one will ever read a book about. Every one of them is valid. Every one of them is a part of discovery. Each of us is a unique angle through which the universe sees itself. Some wide, some narrow, some loud, some quiet. Some will leave legacies. Others will leave ripples no one remembers, but they still mattered. So this is important, because one of the things I talk about at the end of the manifesto is we get into the concept of infinity. And one of the things that I put before you guys is that humanity is infinity actualized. Imagine this. As I said, we are the universe getting to know itself. If you take out all the humans from the universe right now, all of them, do the stars have names? Are the animals named? Are they categorized? Does it mean anything? None of it means anything until you put humans here to narrate it. When you put humans inside of the system, now the system can get to know itself. Now the system can know who it is. But here's the issue. Okay, now think about it like this. If humans just lived forever, right? Like if the first human was still alive from now until whenever, it would be very hard to create meaning. It would be very hard to create meaning. And so what the universe has done, what I put before you, is that what's happening was part of the humanity is a part of the expansion of the universe. It's why I say children are the most the most present form of the expanding universe. The universe just isn't expanding physically like through the stars and the galaxies. It's expanding through us. Every new child that's born is an expansion of the universe. And so the way that the universe gets to know itself is through billions and trillions of individual lives, right? And it can only be that way. It can't be one purpose or one way or one thing, because it's these individual billions and trillions of human lives that may go for, 70 years or so, right? Or in the past, maybe it was younger, right? But our lives need to begin and end in order for meaning to be created. Because if we all just live forever, we wouldn't be able to create meaning. Because our time is limited, right? Because universal consciousness has broken itself down into individual human lives. These individual human lives create meaning. And nobody's meaning is inherently wrong unless it suppresses the humanity or the meaning of another person. This becomes the basis for, as I'm going to say in a little bit, for human rights, for justice. It's this idea that as a human being, I have a right to create meaning in the universe. I have a right to define what these things mean to me, right? I have a right to define what my skin color means, or what my job means, or what my gender means, or what my whatever may mean, right? Every individual has that ability. The only way that we don't have that ability is if through governments, religions, ideology, politics, we suppress that ability in individual humans, right? But again, so this is why I say we are a multiverse. Every single individual human is the universe getting to know itself. You are the entire universe trying to understand itself. And it has a limited amount of time to see itself through your eyes. And once it sees itself through your eyes, it will never get that vantage point again in the history of the universe. The universe could go on for another trillion years, and it will never, ever, ever, ever be able to recreate you, because you are the sum of not just universal consciousness, your particular body and the environment, but also the society you're in, also with how you engage with the unknown, okay? So, let's keep going here. The others still matter. Okay, most people, here we go, think that human rights were invented by governments, religions, or philosophers. They weren't. Those institutions merely gave language to something deeper. The desire for human rights comes from something inside of us, something older than laws, older than nations. It comes from universal consciousness, because once consciousness becomes aware of itself, it begins to recognize itself in others. And when you see that spark in someone, even someone completely different from you, you intuitively feel that person has value. That person should be treated with dignity. That person matters. That's not reason. That's morality. That's awareness recognizing itself. It is the infinite recognizing itself across differences. But here's the problem. Consciousness doesn't just express the beautiful. Consciousness is not polite. It is not clean. It is everything. It will express itself in every form it can, from art to atrocity, from love to genocide. And that includes the people you find morally repugnant, such as child abusers, racists, terrorists, murderers, dictators, and people who make right-hand turns in slow motion. Amen. These people exist. They will always exist, not because they are glitches in the system, but because they are expressions of it. Universal consciousness wants to know itself in all forms, even the monstrous ones. The devil is just as much as part of the universe as God. You alone do not get to dictate what is right any more than Hitler. You don't have to like this, but you need to understand it, because the question is no longer, should these people exist? The question is, what right do they have in society? And that's where justice begins. So the reason why we like the idea of objectivity, because in a very real way, one, it can be used as a mechanism for control, right? It can be used as a mechanism for control. If everything is objective and you have to do things this way, then that's what it is. That will direct that piece of universal consciousness, that piece of the universe will now be molded by this idea that this is the way things are, right? But also objectivity feels safe. We need it to be objective. Consciousness needs it to be stable. Later on, I talk about truth is nothing more than the illusion we all agree on. Okay. And when I say illusion, I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. But what I'm trying to help everybody understand is that, again, my eyes see colors differently. Every single person watching this video is seeing this color in a different color, right? We may all agree on the shade, but because the cones in your eyes are different than the next person, every single person watching this video sees this as a different color. For some people, if you take your glasses off, you can't see shit right now. Literally, there is no objective experience of reality. It's all subjective. So what do you do when you have tens, thousands, billions, and trillions of subjective experiences, right? This is why I believe our word becomes so important. And this is why I believe that one of the reasons that narcissists, liars, people who manipulate, the reason why I believe these people get to the top of society is because they accept this truth. We live under the lie of objectivity. We tell ourselves these things are objectively true. We tell ourselves this is what human rights are, right? Later on, I go on to say, the boundaries of human rights are not what's written in constitutions. The boundaries of human rights are whatever people are willing to put up with. You can argue human rights all you want to. You can go back and forth. But this is why I say, people, at some point you got to have a boundary and go, we don't negotiate human dignity. If you want human dignity to be real, if you want the respect of humanity to be real, stop treating it like it can be debated. Okay? Once we all agree that something is real, we have to uphold that agreement. Look over on page 6, if you guys got my manifesto. This is where we start talking about society, right? If each individual self is able to be in their own universe, and that's what it is. We see this all the time. Again, in the United States of America, nobody shows this better than Donald Trump. To some people, Donald Trump is the savior. To some people, Donald Trump is the man that America needs. To some people, he's commit treason. To some people, he's a pedophile. To some people, Donald Trump is, everybody has so many different opinions on him. We cannot agree on this guy. Why? Because he has a whole apparatus built to manipulate. He has a whole apparatus where he's getting pumped to people so many times. And here's the gag. The brain has no defense against repetition. You can understand propaganda. You can know it's propaganda. You can look at it and go, yep, they're trying to deceive me, but your brain has no defense against repetition. And this is what oftentimes a lot of evil people understand, that if I just have a sheer force of will, I can take something that is quote unquote objective. I can now create a different reality. What a lot of people don't want to accept and realize is that these immoral people, they are operating closer to reality than the rest of us. They are accepting that they are the meaning makers of the universe. We as humans, we decide what has meaning. And so if we're going to come together as a society and we are going to uphold, quote unquote, human rights, we have to uphold them. You can't just outsource it to these institutions, because all these institutions are rules about how us as individuals are supposed to behave with each other. But if people start breaking the rules of these institutions, right? Well, then what do we have left? Here's a great example. Page 6, when I've given the introduction to society, okay? Society is the collective mind. It sets limits and grants permissions to the selves. Society creates rules, laws, norms, cultures, identity systems, shaping what people believe is possible or impossible. It defines what is valued, what is punished, and what is considered good or evil, often long before the self is aware of itself. race, class, gender, sexuality, beauty, status. These are all societal constructs that create invisible walls around the self. No matter how you look at it, society shapes the self and the self shapes reality. That's why unity will always beat facts or truth every time. Let me say this. This is a huge thing. And if you get nothing else from this video, get this. This is why unity will always beat facts or truth every time. Reality does not exist outside the matrix. Something can be observable in the material world as existing, but if the collective says that it does not exist, then it does not exist. African Americans were observably human before society was ready to say they were human. But they did not begin to experience being treated as humans until society said so. The inverse is true as well. If society says that something is true when it is not true, then the self will be shaped by that belief. So if society says that a 5'6" Middle Eastern guy is going to one day come out the clouds and take them into the space because they chose to believe that his father setting him up for murder was the highest act of love and grace for all of eternity, then Jesus is Lord, even if the lies of those Christians prove that he's not. So when we start talking about reality, right? Remember I said self, society, and the unknown. So yes, every single individual self can decide their own definition of truth, their own definition of facts, their own definition of God, their own definition of whatever. Every single individual can decide that. But once we collectively come together and we begin to agree, now we are shaping reality. So here are the two examples I give. Black people were observably human. They were human when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution and said that they were 3/5 of a person and said that they were property, chattel slaves, so that even their children were considered property. They weren't property, right, by how we understand property today, but because of the collective, they did not say that they were human. Well, guess what? They didn't get treated as human, even though they were human. There's no objectivity. It is only what the collective decides and agrees on. Okay? The inverse is true, right? If society says that something is true when it's not, and again, I'm obviously purporting that Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, okay? But if society says that this man is the Son of God, well, guess what? We'll go through 2,000 years of wars, fighting over whether or not we're serving the right God, just for us to get to the 21st century, have the internet, and us being able to go back and research everything and go, wow, all that was bullshit. Wow, everything I was taught about the Bible, everything I was taught about religion, everything I was taught about Jesus Christ was not true. But for for thousands of years, it was objectively true. It's like I say to people, the second the printing press came out, as soon as niggas could read, what did they do? Leave the church. Because once people got access to the information, the truth now changed. So this is, again, there is no objectivity, right? We might debate today whether or not Jesus Christ is the Son of God. You know who we don't debate? Zeus, Aphrodite, Poseidon, all these other gods. We don't debate them, right? So as we go forward, we got to understand that, and this is what we're going through in the United States of America right now. It's why I say in the pro-human movement, we are at a place where we go, we don't negotiate human dignity because everything is negotiable to humanity. Everything is negotiable to humanity because every human can dictate what reality is. If you want to call me a frog, then you can call me a frog. And guess what? If all of society one day just decides Gabe was a frog, he wasn't a human, guess what? People are going to write books about it. People will go and publish articles about it. They'll do think pieces about it until one day it's buried in history. And you may say that's absurd. Do you guys not know how oppression works? Do you not know how propaganda works? Do you not know? Like, this is what happens. So much of the history is buried by propaganda and illusion, right? Because there's no such thing as objectivity. There is a multiverse. Every single individual human is its own universe. And as a human, as someone that possesses universal consciousness, as a conscious being, you are going to create meaning out of things. It's when we come together and have shared meaning that we can form governments, that we can form societies, that we can form laws. But what happens when people are usurping that? Or in the United States of America's case, what happens when it was deception all along? What happens when the founding fathers never really meant all men were created equal? No, you cannot use the Constitution if you're a woman to get justice. You can manipulate the manipulators. You can use their words against them. But what happens when someone calls the bluff? What happens when you get people in power who goes, let's get back to originalism? Yeah, originalism means I'm property. Originalism means there is no birthright citizenship. Originalism means the Bill of Rights, even the Bill of Rights. Even the Bill of Rights. That's not part of the original Constitution. You guys see what I'm saying? So it's one of these things where if we allow anything to be negotiated, there are people who will negotiate everything. They will negotiate your humanity. They will. That is what the legal system in America is. It's where one class of people gets to litigate the humanity of other people. And what we are saying in the pro-human party and the pro-human movement is that, no, we're not doing that. We are not negotiating our humanity with people. Okay, so how do we balance this? In a world of no objectivity, in a world where every human can be their own decider of meaning, how do we not erupt into total chaos like we're doing right now in America? Okay, this is where this concept of the ruling class comes in. Now, a lot of times people want this idea of like this utopian future where there's no ruling class and there's no hierarchy. It's a myth. It's a myth. There will always be hierarchy. The issue in our country is not that there's not a problem with hierarchy. The problem is who is at the top of hierarchy and how they get there. And from the United States inception, we have a hierarchy that was structurally built. It was structurally built so that wealthy white men get to the top. You are fighting the ideology of the hierarchy. And so if we want America to be better, we have to form new hierarchies where the people who get to the top are not defined by their skin color, not defined by their wealth, but we as a people have got to come together and agree. And that will create a new reality. It would create a new objective way, right, of doing law, objective way of creating reality. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about in the ruling class section, page 63. The top of it. Here's what most people don't realize until it's too late, is that the ruling class doesn't just make the laws, it makes meaning. The ruling class defines what matters. It tells the rest of society what's worth chasing, what's worth dying for, what freedom looks like, what justice feels like, what success tastes like. It names dreams. It decides what a good life is. And everyone else spends their life trying to get to it or trying to live up to it. So when I talk about the ruling class, I'm not just talking about wealthy people. I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about, higher status people. I'm talking about our celebrities. What I hate about leftism, right? What I hate about Karl Marx and everything that they got going on over there is that they keep treating the system as if it's outside of humanity. The issue is not that your celebrities are pieces of shit. The issue is that you made pieces of shit celebrities. Again, the issue with Donald Trump is not that he's president of the United States. The issue is that when he said that he wanted to run for president of the United States, as a people, we didn't go, no, no, we're not allowing that. We're not okay with that. We will burn shit down. We will riot. We will do whatever. But no, the issue is not that he's president. The issue is when he was convicted of 34 felonies and a judge said, well, he won't be convicted even though he was, or he won't do time even though he was convicted. The issue was that we all just accepted it. That's the issue. The issue is we are not living out for a new ruling class. We are continually allowing and letting because we are not willing to risk things because of objectivity or the moral high ground or us trying to preserve self. We are focused in on self. And because we are focused in on self, the ruling class, the people at the top, are just able to divide us into little factions. Because you care so much about self. You're not seeing society. You're not seeing the unknown. You're not accepting the truth is that you are trying to uphold a system that was intentionally designed to oppress you. Okay? Let's bring this all together and what we're talking about here. Okay? We're going to talk about the United States Constitution. I got a lot to read here, but I'm going to try to move around so we don't go as fast. We're already 40 minutes into this. Hopefully you guys are getting something from this. If you stayed this long, let me know down in the comment section. Let me know if you're getting something from this, if you have questions or anything. But kind of bringing this all home, right? How do we manage this multiverse? Well, we do it through law. We do it through institutions, right? That's how the illusion of the United States of America has been held up. And what I'm trying to get everybody to see in the pro-human movement is that we need to stop holding up the illusion of freedom. We need to stop holding up the illusion of liberty and democracy. That's an American delusion, an illusion of American exceptionalism. Stop upholding that with your life. You're waiting for someone to continue to uphold the illusion the right way. It was always an illusion. The Constitution was not written for you. It was not written for a diverse population of 350 million people. The more and more you try to uphold the illusion, the more and more guys like Donald Trump are going to get to the top. The more and more guys like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, all these guys who don't care about you, who don't give a fuck about you, the more that the politicians are just going to say whatever they need to manipulate you, is because we keep upholding the illusion with our life. Okay, let's get into the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States is widely revered as this is page 51 of the manifesto. The Constitution is widely revered as one of the most influential governing documents in human history. But from the perspective of this framework, it's not sacred. It is not sacred. It is insufficient. Not because it lacks intelligence, but because it lacks integrity. Not because it fails to create order, but because it was never designed to create justice. From the onset, the Constitution was drafted not to express the fullness of universal consciousness, but to contain it, to structure it in ways that served only a select few bodies in a particular environment, namely wealthy, white, male landowners at a moment in time where oppression was law and slavery was economy. So many Americans know this, and they're still talking about we need to uphold the Constitution. Okay, Donald Trump is upholding the Constitution, guys. He's doing it. JD Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they are upholding the Constitution. The Constitution was specifically made for wealthy white landowning males. This means that the document is not written from a place of matriarchal thinking. It was not designed to work from multiple perspectives. See, the United States of America has an opportunity to do something that the world needs, but it's never been done before. Because our country is so diverse, we have an opportunity to build a country that's actually based upon humanity and not white supremacy. See, what white supremacy did, it championed freedom, it championed liberty, it championed justice while actually practicing racism, oppression, genocide. Okay? And now in the 21st century, we as a people can come together and go, we're going to do something different. We're going to build a real country on humanity now. This means that the document was not written from a place of matrical thinking. It was not designed to work from multiple perspectives. It was designed to deny perspective. It was drafted to silence. It was ratified to suppress. And while the Constitution does leave room for amendments, that's not enough. Because what's broken is not the windows, it's the foundation. You don't fix the cracked ideology by hanging better curtains. If we understand that the self is a dance between universal consciousness, the body, and the environment, then the Constitution must be evaluated on how it protects each of these. And it fails often catastrophically at all three. Universal consciousness demands the freedom to explore, speak, to question, to dissent, to become. But the Constitution never extended those freedoms equally. The very idea of inalienable rights only applied to the ruling class, those whose bodies fit within an acceptable range of race, wealth, gender, and belief. 2, the body, especially the black body, the female body, the disabled body, was ignored or outright enslaved by the Constitution. It was dehumanizing in writing, not metaphorically, literally. The 3/5 compromise turned human beings into fractions. A society rooted in that kind of math cannot produce wholeness. The environment, our evolving social and digital world, is nowhere to be found in the Constitution. It cannot account for climate collapse, AI, global connectivity, or human being. The native. I skipped a page. Hang on one second. I skipped the page here. But basically the idea, what I'm trying to get here is that if we understand that society, that the self is universal consciousness, the body, and the environment, you can look at the Constitution and go, wait a second. This was not drafted so that everybody could have their perspectives. It was drafted so that wealthy white people could have it. Right? It wasn't drafted so that everybody, the disabled body, the female body, the indigenous body, the black body, all these things were deemed as the property, the child body. All these things was deemed as property or labor or as tools for a certain class of people. And the same thing with the environment. The United States Constitution doesn't deal with our ever-changing environment. And so the issue that we have in America right now is the reason why everything feels so fractured is because we live in such a diverse nation with so many different perspectives and so many different universes that if you are good at manipulating, if you're good at lying, if you're good at deception, that's how you get to the top of American society. Because the United States Constitution was drafted to deceive. It was not drafted to give people justice, right? So here on page 53, trying to get justice from the Constitution, right? Because again, think about what justice is. I always say we don't have a legal system. We don't have a justice system. We have a legal system. Trying to get justice from the Constitution is like using a slave owner's diary as a manual for equality. What do you expect to find? Justice in the margins? It's like building tomorrow with blueprints designed to keep you in the past. It's like asking a ghost for directions to the future. They don't know where you're going, and they never cared if you made it. Trying to get justice from the Constitution is like expecting the writings of a liar to be the final arbiter of truth. And yet, here we are, still using their words to survive because that's the game we've had to play. In America, manipulate the manipulator, use their words against them, twist their words, use their language against them. Every right earned by black people, by women, by poor people, by immigrants, by the disabled, every single one. I need you guys to get that. Every single right that we have has been clawed out of a system that was not designed to give it. And that's why the fight for equality was always a Trojan horse. And that's why cries of reverse racism and white people calling for their equality falls hollow. It wasn't really about being equal. It was about being recognized. It was about being seen. Equality is the only language the system understood, so we used it. But the truth is, none of us are equal. Not in body, not in access to consciousness, not in environment. And that's okay because equality was never the goal. The real goal is liberation. The real goal is authenticity. The goal is self-actualization for all selves, not just the ruling class. But how can a society pursue that when its foundation is laid by men who would rather die than share power? This is why America feels broken, why the country feels spiritually exhausted, because we're still pretending the ideals on the page match the people in power. We're still negotiating justice with cowards wearing the mask of freedom. We're still building oppressive systems and branding them with words like liberty, peace, and order. And one more paragraph. The Constitution is the lie we keep living under. A map to freedom drawn by people who never wanted us to arrive. A document that wasn't built to evolve, but to exclude. And while amendments have allowed us to squeeze a little more justice out of it, we are still trapped in a rigged game, forced to fight the same fights over and over. The truth is, we've outgrown the document, not just politically, but spiritually. The founding fathers never imagined you reading this, never wanted you empowered, never envisioned a world in which your voice could matter. And yet here you are. That's the power of the overmen. That's the legacy of the oppressed. We keep coming. We keep rising. We keep surviving systems that were never built for us. We've been forced to be better than the narcissists, forced to develop wisdom in the face of gaslighting, forced to weaponize our clarity just to be seen. And now we don't just want a seat at the table. We are building a new table. Here's how the game works. Here's how it works. I say this all the time. We are at a place in human evolution where it's time to deem things like white supremacy and racism as mental illnesses. You say why? Because that is closer to the material reflection that we see. If you're white, look at your skin. Your skin is not this color. You may say, well, duh, my skin's not white. But think about that for a second. Think about that. If I can get you to say your skin is this color, or my skin is black, even this is black, this is not black. This is black, this is not black. And you may say, well, Gabe, you're arguing semantics. Yeah, because that's how they got you. That's how they got you. If I can get you to think this is white, or your skin is this color, well, then if I can get you to convince that, then I can also propose an argument that says that white people deserve a certain amount. And what I can do is I can reverse engineer the life that I want by giving you axioms or logics or ideas for you to build your reality on. You see what I'm saying? If I can get certain ideas in your psyche, you will build a reality that works for me. And what I'm trying to get everybody to see is it's time to punt the premise. We know that the Constitution was not written for somebody like me. If you care about my freedom, we need to rip up the Constitution. We need to rip up the Constitution because it is a lie. And we need to live in the present. This is why everybody wants you to grab onto ideas of the past. I tell the left all the time, the reason why the left can, there are no leftists. They're just capitalists who make money off left-wing content. Because these guys will not take Carl's dick out of their mouth long enough to build a healthy society, to do the communist socialist revolution. They're still waiting. They're still waiting on the Constitution. They're still waiting on American exceptionalism to work. They're still waiting on systems that were objectively meant to oppress you, to not oppress you. Why? Because you are living in a false reality. You are living a lie. You are letting people manipulate language. You are letting people take advantage of your lack of your unwillingness to step up. It's just that simple. It's that simple. And so, because there is this illusion of objectivity, that's what the Constitution does. It gives you human rights. Human rights. Why are we debating human rights? I'm not debating human rights with anybody. I'm not debating trans rights. I'm not debating disabled rights. I'm not debating. Why do we debate those? If our country really believes in human rights, why do we have debates on Jubilee over human dignity? Wake up. Wake up. The Constitution never intended you to have rights. Ever. Not at any point. If you are still trying to use the United States Constitution as a way to get yourself freedom, you are being fucking stupid. You're being stupid. You're being dumb. You're not intelligent. You're not smart. That document was objectively written to oppress you. Period. If you are not a land-owning white male, if you are not a wealthy white male, and you're using the Constitution, it's because there's a deceiver who understands the multiverse better than you. They understand that every individual human has a responsibility to create meaning during their life. And so if I can feed you meaning, if I can feed you that the Constitution is for your freedom, and it's not the institutionalization of white supremacy. If I can tell you that the Constitution grants you human rights and you don't protect your human rights yourself, then you're going to tell yourself, well, man, if I don't have money for a lawyer or if I don't have money for this, then I'm not going to, that's just the way it is. That's not just the way it is. No, that's the way the United States Constitution designed it. So when we talk about objectivity happens when our collective selves come together and decide what's what. And so let this white supremacists have the Constitution. Let them have it. It's time to build something new. We have the oldest Constitution in the world. That is not a flex. That is, in fact, a red flag. That's a red flag. We can't use this document to get better, right? Right here, this is why America will always be at odds with itself, because the Constitution, the sacred text of American identity, was never written for 330 million people. It wasn't written for the black woman raising a family. It wasn't written for the native child trying to survive generational trauma. It wasn't written for the trans teen seeking protection. It wasn't even written for the poor white man who thinks he's protected by whiteness but isn't protected by wealth. It was written for a very small group of people, white landowning men, and everything about it reflects his limited vision. The structure, the system, the so-called checks and balances, they were all crafted to serve a narrow class of humanity while appearing universal. And so America, as it grows and diversifies, finds itself in a constant identity crisis. Its past is always at war with its future. It's the battle between intention and evolution, between old power and emerging truth, between a blueprint meant to exclude and a population demanding to be included. And the cost of that tension is national chaos. That's why America feels schizophrenic. It wants to evolve, but it refuses to let go of its childhood. It wants to be a nation for all while worshiping the words of men who wanted it for a few. That's the issue. Because in this multiverse, we're trying to give meaning to a document that it was never meant for. You're trying to attach freedom. You're trying to attach justice. You're trying to attach liberty to the document when it was never intended to give you that. It was only intended to make you believe that's what it was for. And what I'm trying to get Americans to do is take your faith out of the Constitution. We don't need to try to negotiate. We're not negotiating our humanity anymore. I'm not fighting for another amendment. I will fight to get a Constitution that works for all people. Every other group of human beings on planet Earth has figured this out. Every other developed nation has figured this out. Americans haven't figured this out because they refuse to accept the nature of reality. We are a multiverse. Every single human is a different piece of the universe getting to know itself. And if I can get all these different people to believe in this Constitution, gives them freedom, gives them justice, gives them liberty, gives them the ability to self-actualize, well, guess what? They're just going to do my system. And they're going to go down that path for hundreds of years, believing that it's freedom, when really it's oppression. It's not about what's right. It's about what are we going to decide? What are we going to put up with as a culture? What are we going to agree to? And what do we as a people say is going to happen to people who don't fulfill the agreement. This is why we came up with the idea of covenantal government. It's no longer, it really doesn't matter what we agree on. I mean, it matters in the sense of like, we obviously want to pick the best, right? I'll talk about it here in allowing truth to compete. Let's let the best ideas compete. The best ideas aren't competing right now because we are married to this old white supremacist document, and we're allowing people with capital to just dominate the narrative. And so the best ideas, the best people aren't getting to the top of society. There's no such thing as objectivity. It's all subjective. This is why human rights are different on different parts of the world. This is why you can have free healthcare here, but not healthcare there. This is why, you can have paid, leave for mothers and fathers here, but not there. This is why kids can go to school and feel safe in one country, but in the United States of America, your school may get shot up. Y'all want to tell me that human rights are objective? They're not objective. They're subjective. And the United States of America is the most barbaric country on planet Earth, and it has been for a while. And Americans need to stop being so arrogant. Your country destabilizes democracies. Your country, treated people like they weren't humans for years, for decades, centuries, and it still does. You're the only country on planet Earth with a school shooting, and you guys are having debates. We're disgusting. That's how normal. That's how normal injustice is in the United States of America. That's how desensitized we are to it, and yet still have the audacity to talk about this as a nation for liberty and justice for all. Okay? So I know I went pretty deep in there on the United States Constitution, but when you are dealing with the fact that you are living in a multiverse, what a society agrees upon becomes the quote unquote objective reality of that society. But it's just an agreement. The problem is we are agreeing to our oppression. We are trying to use a document that was never meant to free us, and then getting mad when our system. Yes, because the wealthy white men are like, no, this document is for us. Same thing with the laws, same thing with the statutes, common law, right? The wealthy are like, no, this is for us. And we're trying to go, no, it's actually for us. And then they're going, well, let's see what the law says. Well, the law was written by them and for them. Don't fall into that game. It's time for us to come together as a nation and build something for all people, not just the wealthy. So hopefully that kind of explained things. Hopefully you guys kind of got how the multiverse works and how every single individual is the universe getting to know itself, and every single individual is creating meaning in and of themselves. And what creates the illusion of objectivity are things like laws, are things like constitutions, are things like social norms, are things like religion. And it's not that these things are inherently bad. It's just, if we're going to continue on as a people, we need to decide on these things consciously and not just unconsciously accept bad ideas like the Constitution can be used for freedom. It can't be used for freedom, because if it could be used for freedom, everybody would have had freedom at the beginning. Okay? So hopefully that helped you guys. If you want to support the pro-human movement, down below, I'll have a link for you. www.mercyformaya.com. You can join the subscription liberation. That will greatly help. We're asking 100 million people give us $1 a month. It's that easy. It is that easy. At $1 a month, if 100 million people are giving $1 a month, nobody would miss a meal. Nobody would miss a bill. And it's enough money to reshape America by sheer force of will. It's that simple. It's that simple, guys. But we live underneath this illusion that the only way to do it is through the political system that was established to oppress us. Okay? So hopefully that helped you guys. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.